Be Frank Network. Content on this production is for entertainment and informational purposes only. It is not medical advice, nor is it intended to substitute medical treatment or diagnosis. Seek medical help if you believe that you are suffering from a mental illness or are a threat to yourself or others. By using any or all of the information provided, you do so at your own risk. Any application of the material is at the listener's discretion and is his or her sole responsibility.
Hey everybody, Doc Brian here, and welcome to Doc Talks DX, where we talk about our guest probable diagnosis. Once again, I have with me Katie Boyle, and hopefully you've listened to the podcast with her on Doc Talks, and she is again here with me today. So Katie, thank you for being here with us, and we look forward into kind of unwrapping some of this stuff that has gone on in your life.
Great. Thank you.
Just great. Thank you. You can't see her, but she is scared to death. This.
Like, don't diagnose me too bad. There's a window here. Okay?
Yeah. Don't do anything crazy.
I'm coping so well lately.
That is why we make you give us your address and your phone number to do this. So if you go off the rails here, we can call somebody to help you. But that's not happened yet. But we want to make sure we limit liability anywhere that we can. So if you listen to the original podcast with Katie, you know that there was issues in her growing up with a mother who had many different ideas, I guess, about how things should be, and that there was quite a bit of kind of an explosive anger but then explosive love and compassion of let's do this together, and then 5 seconds later there was something else. Is that pretty well described?
Yeah, and it was just, I guess, like I said, walking on eggshells, but also very unhealthy scenarios. Should I give you an example?
Yes, please. That would be good.
Okay, one example is when I was 13, she had a bunch of men over and they were partying, and it was like 3 a.m., but I had a maths test the next day. So I went down to say, can you keep it quiet? Can you turn down the music? And then she came upstairs. Now, she slapped me in the face, but that's fine. I don't care. Like, that's not a big deal. But she said, you're trying to seduce my friends. And I was like, what? And she said, with your see-through shirt. I was wearing a Brazil soccer jersey. So that kind of was a lot of it as well. There was like situations like that, or another time, I would never know where to put, this is really gross, and I don't share this a lot with people because it makes them uncomfortable, but like with my like period, she moved a guy in and he was living there a month. I never met him. I didn't know him. He was from like Amsterdam or something. And I can't remember exactly, but she got me to go to the store for her, but then she was screaming on the phone being like, you need to come back in time. Like, I can't remember if this is the same day or a different day where I was with my friend. She was screaming about getting her period and there was like blood pouring out of her and it was like so loud. I was like, oh God, like my friends are going to hear. But that day she was definitely screaming on the phone. But when I got home, we had been minding my cousin's dog and the dog had pulled my period pad out of the bin. And instead of her kind of just going, whatever, these things happen, in front of this guy, she like held it up and was screaming at me that I'm like disgusting. Like, how, why did I think that was okay to just put it in the, like, you call it a trash can? And for years later, I never knew where to put period pads. When I went to someone's house, I would just wrap it up in my bag and bring it home with me because I wouldn't know what to do. So things like, it was like very emotionally abusive, I guess is the right word.
Yeah.
So yeah, every day was something along the lines of that. Yeah.
So there was also physical abuse, which could be acceptable.
I wouldn't even hold that against her. Like, I think what kid hasn't gotten that slap in the face? Like, I wouldn't. It was never that physical. It was very physical with my dad, but with me, it was more like I felt like mental torture. If that makes sense, like. Even the sleeping in the bed, or like if I was watching TV, like the breathing too loud, or one time she got us to hide under the stairs because there was like a murderer upstairs, or there's like the cat's meowing outside, it's an axe murderer, and like always pull down the curtains because people are watching us, or wasn't allowed to close my door for 18 years because she needed to like always come in, and like, or she'd like always checking my phone or my diaries since I was small, or she would force me to write things in my diary about how terrible my father was. Like just fucking, ugh.
Now, when you said that she, one of the candid ways to say it is that every time she blinked, she became a different person. That just,
Yeah.
but was it ever distinctly that she was now this person and then there was this person, like the whole personality changed and you noticed which personality she was in, or was it always different?
No, I think like if you met her, she's very polite and friendly and sweet and nice for like a little while. She'll ruin your life. I mean, like with friends and partners and like people's partners and stuff. But there's a eye twitch she'd do that I'd know, oh fuck, there's like the demon person is coming. It was like she would close her one eye, and then I'm like, okay, this is it. We're done. So it was in like, it's not like it's different personalities. It was just like different, I don't know, like A to Z. Yeah.
So it wasn't that, okay, if she became very combative, that she used the same kind of tones and words, but then the next time that she came combative, it was like a whole different person, or did she kind of stay in
No, she stayed in like, I mean, like when she was screaming and ugh, she was the same screaming ugh, that she is yesterday or the day before. It's just like, let's say it could be like an example, like, we're gonna watch a show, we're gonna do this, it's gonna be great, and then I don't know, maybe I'll say, oh, I wish we had crisps or something, and then she's like, well, I'm a fucking terrible mother, you ruined this, and it's hours of I ruined this, and I'm making her be mad, and it's how can I make her have that, but like screw, like I haven't even raised. I do acting class, and my teacher was like, you need to learn to raise your voice more. Because I'm just like, ugh, I hate any of that. But yeah, so it's just 0 to 60. And you're just like, fuck, I did not know that was a trigger word. I did not know. So you're always like contemplating how to say something or how to do something because everything was a trigger.
Was there ever, did she ever experience suicidal thoughts?
Yeah, oh my God, I forgot about that. Yeah, she told me once that, doctor. Yeah, she told me once that she like slit her wrists and let herself bleed out on the table. And I can't remember what I said for that to happen. But she wasn't going to do it.
She did, or she told you she did?
She told me she would. Yeah.
Okay.
How would you feel if all of that? So there's definitely those. But I remember talking to my dad about it once, and he was like, people who say it don't do it.
Not necessarily true, but
I know, but she didn't do it. So
yeah.
No,
I wouldn't accept that as a general rule.
Like, it's his way of being like, don't worry about it. It's fine.
Yeah. So when it comes to your mother, the diagnosis probably that first comes to mind in what you've described would be borderline personality disorder. And what that does, just some of the list of symptoms here from the DSM, is that there's antisocial behavior, compulsive behavior, hostility, impulsivity, irritability, risk-taking behaviors, self-destructive behavior, self-harm, social isolation, or lack of restraint. And I think that probably 90% of those describe what she has done or is doing. Then when it gets into the mood, there's anger, anxiety, discontentment, guilt, loneliness, mood swings, sadness. And so I think you describe all of that. But I think the key thing here in this is that there is a distorted self-image, there is grandiosity and narcissism. Yeah. And I think that's really where the key point is here, is that this thought of I'm going to control you and you're going to do what I tell you to do, whether you want to or not. And with narcissism comes the gaslighting, as you mentioned in a previous relationship of love bombing. Sometimes narcissists do that as well. Did she ever get to a point of where she was like, okay, I've got to keep Katie happy, let's love bomb her?
She would make me say I love you before we ever left the house, because she said like what we could die. So or she would on birthdays, like she would buy so many gifts But then it was thrown in my face like, I don't have money to do this. And I didn't fucking ask for this shit.
Right. Which is typical narcissistic behavior. And just a side note, if anybody ever does something for you and then they say, look what I have done for you, or they say, after all of that I have done for you, you're going to do this, then they really didn't do it for you. They did it for themselves. And a lot of times, though, we fall into that trap of feeling like we owe them something when we don't. We don't owe anybody anything, just like nobody owed us when they gave it to us. You know, if you live in a world of tit for tat, you're always going to lose. You're always going to lose. So with this narcissistic behavior growing up, I believe that you adapted and coped very well with it. The thought of your mental health and where you are today is proof of that, unless there is this, you have this exterior of being just this very happy, bubbly Irish Catholic, as you explained. But then when everything goes away, you recluse into a dark corner and contemplate the powers of the world.
No, I'm good. Like, I wake up some mornings sad. I'm not going to lie to you, but I do think that emotions are like a balance. So I just go, I'm going back to sleep for half an hour.
Right. Yeah.
And then I'm fine. Like, I think, I do feel like I'm very happy. But I wish my dating life was better. But
But do you feel happy, or do you feel like it's an exaggeration of happiness?
no, I feel very content. Like, I woke up this morning feeling a bit sad, but it was just
But
like,
that was because you knew you were doing this podcast.
nah, it's because I slept with the guy too soon. And like that shame and stuff. And it's just like, I'm 30 now, so I'm able to dress. This isn't mine. This is my culture. Chill. And I just think I'm a happy and positive person, and I like being that way. But I'm also aware that life is a balance. And if I'm going to be happy from 2 to 10, maybe I'm just not a great morning person.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, well, I feel a little sad for a second, but I think that's normal, right? I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So during the break here between the two podcasts, you shared with me that you have sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is that not like the scariest thing in the world when that happens?
Yeah. It recently was very scary. I had it really bad recently, but that's because I watched that fucking Beyond Your Eyes program, and it's literally talks about like night terrors, and I'm like, I should have known. Like, I remember one time watching Black Swan and nearly needing to leave the cinema because it's about the mother-daughter. Like, they should have little, like, you know, the way they have those suicide things, like, if you're suicidal, don't watch this. They should be like, if you have trauma, don't fucking watch this. But yeah, that, and I think that's what spurred it on a bit. But yeah, no, it's pretty bad. It doesn't happen a lot though. Like, it used to happen way more, but now it's like maybe once a month. If I'm actually dating somebody and I'm sleeping in their bed, it never happens. So I kind of like having a boyfriend for that.
Yeah. And then you said you had this reoccurring dream.
Yeah. So it used to come a lot more, but the past year I've been working on my issues with my mother. So I think that's why I'm getting over it. But it was the same dream. I'd be back in the house, in my house, and I couldn't pull down the blinds fast enough. And there's someone outside trying to murder us. And it's just a variation of that dream. There's always someone trying to murder me in the house, and I'm not able to keep the house secure.
Okay. And how often would you say you experienced that dream?
I feel like I haven't in months. I don't remember the last time I had it, but it used to be like at least once or twice a month for years, for as far as I remember. But I feel like the pandemic has been good for me in that regard, that I've less stress maybe. And I've like also been really thinking about like giving myself a break with the whole mother stuff and being like very kind to myself and nice to myself and stuff. So I think that maybe has helped a lot, and I'm sleeping better. So
okay, so within psychology, there is a subsect, if you will, of sleep psychology, and it talks about how we need sleep to process our emotions and to get things out of short-term memory into long-term memory, how we process that. And even with dealing with PTSD, we have EMDR that basically manually processes things the way you would do if you were in a REM sleep. So in that study, there are certain things that we can pull from dreams to try to tell psychologically what's going on, because I would dare say, and there would be some that will argue with this, but I don't think that dreams are made up.
Yeah.
I think that everything that we dream comes from our subconscious, and it is us trying to process out those things that we have kept in. So growing up in your childhood home typically is that you're dreaming about a crossroads in your life of where you are either about to do really good or about to do really bad, that you're kind of teetering. When you are pulling blinds, typically that is telling us that it's something that you're ashamed of. Kind of like if something's in the closet, if you're hiding it, it's something you're ashamed of. And then typically an intruder or a murderer or somebody trying to get in your house is illustrative of someone you have cut off in your life. So if you put that all together, you would be dreaming about your mother, who you are ashamed of, and how she is going to affect your future.
Oh, yeah, that is true. That makes sense. I always worry that she'll slide out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I thought that the pulling blinds was just because she would make me do that every night because she was afraid someone was watching us. And then she would say that there's murderers outside. So I was taking it very literal.
Yeah. And then, that could be, this is just one aspect of how that would work. But, and I would say that you probably deal with quite a bit of a subconscious anxiety that, it probably doesn't manifest physically. But do you ever have times where you just feel like your brain is foggy and you just have to take a minute?
Yeah. Yeah. I also have like really bad IBS as well. So I think I agree with the subconscious thing because I feel like I'm fine. And then I'm like, my body doesn't feel like it's great.
Right.
Does that make sense?
And even with IBS, it is, some studies have indicated that it is caused by chronic anxiety and depression, because about 90% of your serotonin is made and stored in your gut, which is where the old adage comes from, is to trust your gut. But according to one of your posts, you can't trust your gut because your gut deceives you because you have IBS. I think if I read that right, it's what you said.
Yeah, but I really should trust my gut. A lot of times guys that it hasn't worked out with dating, my gut was like, and I was like, let's ignore this.
Yeah. Yeah. And that probably comes though from your feeling of loneliness. Because you never were really nurtured as a child.
Yeah, no.
And so the key thing here is to not carry that into a relationship.
Yeah.
So what is one thing that a guy could do that would just, and you said you don't really cry unless you really have something that just really deeply hurts you. What is something that a guy in a relationship could do to you that would put you to the point of being deeply hurt to cry?
I mean, like I cry if I watch movies and stuff. When I said that, I meant more, well, yeah, I guess more, if I was really hurt, to cry in front of a guy. I don't know. See, just because I wouldn't cry wouldn't mean I'm not hurt. I just think in the argument, once you cry, you lose. And I'm not saying that as a bad way, but I mean, like, I want whatever I'm saying to be heard and understood. And I feel like if you get upset, I don't want them to be like, okay, it's okay because of that. I want them to really listen and understand. So I try not to for that reason. Also because I just, like, I would have cried a lot more when I was younger and stuff. But
you probably did when you were super wrong and you were told that you didn't have anything to cry about and be sent away.
When I was what?
When you were very young.
Yeah, like I think Ireland's Ireland's like that anyway. Like, don't be crying over spilt milk. It's not a super cry pro culture.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, what are you crying about? You're lucky to have whatever, that sort of stuff. But I think like if a guy cheated on me, like that would probably make me cry, I'm sure. Like just the regular stuff,
So it would be the abandonment that would really get to you.
If he cheated on me? Yeah, I guess so. I guess as well, it's just because I would never do that. I'm ridiculously loyal. Because even when you said before about, oh, you shouldn't hold up your tit for tat. And yes, my mother shouldn't do that. But I can see how frustrating it is when you're in a relationship and it's not being played
reciprocated.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can't use it. You can't be listing up. But I find that sometimes like Yeah, a little frustrating, but I don't know, like how someone can expect so much from you without doing it in return.
Mhm.
But I think everybody feels that.
But I think, if you look into a person's personality and how they receive love, that if you are giving them love the way they receive it, that they will naturally reciprocate to you the way that you need it. That it's
Yeah.
it's organic in that way.
Yeah, but I have dated a few narcissists, so like, that's something I'm like trying to work on.
Well,
And
you
they're not
need to
bad people.
you need to get your
but
checklist and,
Yeah.
say,
have
okay,
it.
these are my red flags.
I have a list now of what I want.
Yeah, and check off those red flags. And girls don't like red flags, and guys don't like red flags. And
Yeah.
love is blind, though. We can be starstruck by someone and say, I don't care about all of these red flags. It's just the best looking person I've ever met in my life.
Yeah.
And then it all falls apart, and we don't know what to do.
Yeah. So I guess with the cheating thing, because I don't think people abandon you after they cheat. Sometimes they just tell you because they feel guilty or whatever. But it's more just, I know what it is. It takes me a while to I trust my friends and stuff like that. But when it comes to partners, that if that trust was broken, I would find it very hard to. So I think that would make me cry. I just definitely don't want to meet someone who breaks my trust, if that
Right.
makes sense.
But not necessarily physically abandoning you, but emotionally abandoning you because of the trust that's left in that
I guess so,
relationship.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I would dare say you have abandonment issues because of your
Yeah.
mommy issues.
Yeah, for sure.
How do you
That-
feel when you have a really close friend that you talk to quite a bit and then just they quit talking to you?
I feel better about it now, but I know when I was younger, I didn't like a few years ago, that would really bother me if I were putting in a lot of effort in and they weren't, and they just suddenly, yeah, of course. But no, I feel more better about it now, but that's just because I'm old and I'm like, "Ugh, I have enough friends." In the past, yes, but I can honestly say, no, it's fine now because I realize that people just have their own shit going on and you can just call and you don't need to talk all the time. So
Right.
I'm kind of okay with that.
Okay.
No, none of my close friends would do that though. My very close friends I've been friends with for years. Yeah, if they don't talk to me for like a couple of weeks, I just know that they're busy.
hmm
I have a kind of secure relationship with them.
Okay. So in friendships like that, you do have that security, but that's because you have built this trust over
For years. Yeah.
a period of time.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you think is your biggest problem
In a relationship?
in life?
That I guess, yeah, wanting a relationship. I think if I am very honest, I probably was trying to recreate some sort of love that I didn't have. Like most people, if you have like a mother, like I was with my father and my stepmother a good bit of the time, but it's not the same. Like you don't have someone who just loves you unconditionally or whatever. And like my mother always told me nobody would ever love me. So I think for me, always trying to date and find, I was probably trying to replicate a bit of that. So I'm trying to like not do that anymore.
And it kind of goes back to you wanting to prove them wrong.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But like,
So you'll try something you wouldn't normally try in hopes that it would prove them wrong.
I would settle with guys just because they liked me and not ever asking if I actually liked them. And then being frustrated and angry. And then, now that I'm 30, I realize, oh, I just didn't like them. Like what was I doing? Like I don't need to date everybody who wants to date me. So that's been a huge learning curve. And also my friends love me. I have the best friends. My stepmother loves me. My father loves me. So it's like kind of being like, oh, I don't need to, I am loved and I love me. So.
Right. Which is the most important, that you do love yourself.
Yeah. Now I do now.
So when it comes to you for an actual diagnosis, I really don't think that you have any type of mental health diagnosis. I think that you have just carried a lot of baggage in your life, but you have found healthy ways to cope with that baggage.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. If you had talked to me 5 years ago, you might be like, Jesus.
Yeah. Well, we like to think, at least on the psychology side, that everybody has something wrong with them. And really, if you boil it down to the brass tacks, we all have something. But to have a little bit of something doesn't make it a diagnosis, but it also doesn't really make it a problem. Just like you said, some mornings you wake up and you're sad. Well, what what is wrong with that? Now, if you're sad over a period of days, then, we need to talk about that and see what's going on. But, even with sleep paralysis, it's not always a psychological issue. Sometimes it can be neurological. And there are neuropsychologists that study those kind of things. So with this reoccurring dream, I would bet good money, and I'm not a betting man, but once you get into a secure relationship, that you're not going to have that dream anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's been like far and few between recently, which I do think has been me also like coming to terms with like the whole mother shit and giving myself a bit of a break. So I think the pandemic was fucking great for me. So I'm so excited to get in a secure relationship, though. I'd be such a good girlfriend. So that's why I get really annoyed with these guys where I'm like, don't you realize you should lock me down?
Yeah.
But it's also like I've been picking the wrong men as well. I love fun.
But cuffing season is over. So, we're moving in the summer here.
I know, but it's all like people are like, you're young, have fun. And I'm like, a healthy relationship sounds like a lot of fun to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and at least when I turned 30, I'm 37. So when I turned 30, I was like, oh, I'm so old now. I feel old and I move like an old person. And when somebody would say, oh, you're still young, I'm like, you have no idea, how I feel when I wake up in the morning and I just feel like I'm half dead. And, we do that to ourselves, sometimes. So as far as having a healthy relationship, you need to find someone that you can on the front end say, hey, these are my expectations.
So do you think I should say that?
Yeah, not in a very pointed kind of way, but, to say, hey, this is what I've been through. This is what I'm looking for. And you can say, hey, I'm not looking to date for fun. I'm looking to date for a relationship. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. I'll say it's an English lad, so.
Yeah.
We'll see if there's a third date.
Yeah, that is true. And typically by the second or third date, you're going to know their intentions. I mean, it's going to be very clear. But trust your gut on that. And if it just doesn't seem right, then walk away. And if it is right, then fate has a way to bring things back around to us. That's
true. As my dad says, what's for you won't pass you, which is funny because when I went into this bloke's kitchen, he had that on one of his quotes. I was like, oh, Dad?
Because my wife and I dated for like 3 months, and then we didn't talk to each other for like a year.
Oh, wow.
And then we dated again for like 2 months, and then we got engaged, and a month later got married.
Oh, my God.
So it was, if it's meant to be, it'll come back.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I agree with you.
You do have to remember that, and to remember in the relationship that you deserve the best.
Yeah.
What has happened to you is not who you are.
No. That's why I try not to talk about it too much because I don't want to identify as it.
Yeah. And I think we get lost in that, though, that, because this has happened to me, then this is probably going to happen. Or, even in thinking about mental health being sometimes hereditary or genetic, we get concerned about, okay, is this going to affect if I have children, or is this going to manifest sometime later in life? And I would say to you is that now that you're in your 30s, you're probably outside of that window for any of that to manifest, unless there's a traumatic life event that takes place in your life.
Like growing a child in my stomach.
No.
That seems so traumatizing to me. Kids just burst out of your vagina. I'm like, oh my God.
No, not to that extent. Something that, it could be losing someone that you're really close to.
Yeah.
It could be being in a very bad car wreck and almost dying.
Yeah.
Those kind of traumatic life events that can rewire your personality. But I don't really think that's anything you need to worry about. You're very healthy mentally right now from what I can assess. And I'm proud of you. You're doing good.
This is so good. Okay, I won't jump out the window.
Yeah, please don't. We would kind of frown on that just a little bit.
No. I am happy. And like when I was younger, when I was like 15, I thought about maybe suicide just for like a split second, because I was like, oh, then people will know. And that sort of level of depression and stuff. Now that I'm older, I'm so happy that I'm able to be like, like, I don't know if anybody's listening to this and you ever think about it, just time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember my dad saying something to me like, time heals all.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, sometimes you just got to do like an emotional prison. And I'm so glad. Like, look, I don't know how far, I'm just so glad that I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that I kind of just, and I remember going 3 years, just fucking wait 3 years. And I did. And, you know, and now if I ever get sad, I'm like, just give it an hour, it'll be grand. And
Yeah.
I just, it's like the best thing anyone ever told me, like time, just do the time.
Which brings up an interesting topic of sleep. And I've often said that sleep is the dishwasher of the mind.
Yeah.
If you have this super great idea at 1 o'clock in the morning and you go to sleep in the morning, you'll be like, that was a horrible idea, you know? And
yeah, sleep on it.
Yeah, just sleep on it. And you know, if you had a friend that reached out to you that you couldn't physically get to that said, hey, you know, I don't want to live. I don't want to move on. A lot of times there's what we call a no harm agreement. And that's where I say, okay, Katie, I know what you're telling me. This is what I hear you saying. I can't physically come be with you, but can you promise me that you will not do anything until I call you at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning? And 99% of the time, that person will agree to it, and they will say, and this will be their thought, well, I don't want to live. I can't let Katie down because I just promised her.
Yeah.
And so then that gives them time to sleep on it.
Yeah.
And wash their mind, if you will. And in the morning, they may still feel depressed. They may still feel like they don't want to live, but they'll be in a different headspace about when they're going to do it or what they're going to do. So it's very important to do that. Of course, if you're listening and you are considering suicide, then you need to get help, whether that's through calling the suicide prevention hotline, or you know, if you're right on the edge, calling 911 to get you help. And there's absolutely no shame in feeling suicidal. No shame.
No. I'm sorry. I think a lot of people at some point in their life, and it's over consume. Like, I was talking to someone recently and they were talking about someone cutting themselves or like suicidal, and they were like, I don't understand it. And it's like, as people, we're not taught to understand the feelings we have. It's so hard to articulate it and to express it. So for me, actually, it makes a lot of sense why people would just go, fuck it, I can't. And like that, if you just give it time, the fuzz goes away. And
absolutely.
Yeah. I had a friend and she called the police because she felt that way. But the police said, have you eaten? And she was like, no. And he goes, I'm on my way, but eat something. And then she ate something. And she said it was like the most bizarre thing. But she has a great story about it. She's a stand-up comedian, but it was like life-changing. She was like, oh my God, I haven't eaten all day. Oh, I should eat. This guy's giving me a job. I should do this before he comes. And it kind of kept her busy until he came.
It does. And depending on what you eat can kind of reset the anxiety. You know, if you're a very anxious person and you suffer with anxiety, if you find yourself in the middle of about to have an anxiety attack, if you eat something super sour, it reboots, if you will, your brain.
That's amazing.
It's a grounding technique. So
I love food. Food affects you so much. Even like green tea helps your heart-ons. So any lads listen to this, or women too, because it's the blood flow. So green tea. Like, just it's amazing how little bits of food, like there's like, you know, these tiny little things that could just help you. You know?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, whatever you may be struggling with today, just know that there is help and there's hope, and there is somebody out there who cares about you and about what you're going through. And you can get all the help that you need, and it is available to you. And I've never counseled with someone who attempted suicide that said to me they wanted to die. They've always said, I didn't feel there was any other way.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of where we get to the point of, it's not that we want to die, I just don't know any other way.
Yeah. And it's also, now people will know. I think that's why people cut themselves as well. You kind of like hope, well, cutting is it's also like control, and it's literal, you can feel the pain. But I feel like also it's like if you can't express or explain it, it's like someone will ask or something. It's like so hard. It's so hard to just be like, shit, I'm not coping. But if someone's like, are you not coping? You're like, I'm not coping. But yeah.
And you know, that's the other thing. And you mentioned, your cousin said, why didn't you tell us? And nobody asked. It's okay to ask somebody, are you feeling okay? Is there something going on? Do you feel suicidal? There is nothing wrong with asking somebody how they feel. And, even with cutting, typically the reason people cut is to feel a different emotion than what they are currently feeling.
Yeah. I did it a couple of times just when I was 15. And it was just because it was like, I was so overwhelmed with all the emotions and the shit that was going on that it was, I can feel this pain. And it was like, I have control of this. Now, I only did it a few times and I was like, it's not for me. So I wouldn't even call myself a cutter because it was like a month.
So do you know what gives you the same result, but is much more healthy?
What?
Taking a cold shower.
Oh.
Just as cold as you could possibly take.
Yeah, that's good. I definitely don't need that at all anymore. I kind of figured out my own, I don't know. I also have this weird coping mechanism. This is going to sound really crazy. Maybe you will actually diagnose me after this. But when I was small and like everything going on with my mother and stuff, I don't know why I got it into my head that anytime I thought of bad thoughts, I thought it would happen. So I would, and then Irish people touch wood as a way to be like, oh, what if like you got cancer, touch wood. But it really it was really in my head a lot like, oh my God, these bad things are going to happen. And I think because my mother just talked about all like the worst possible scenarios, but then there'd be situations where there'd be no wood and I wouldn't be able to touch wood and I would get so much anxiety. But now I'm not an extreme Catholic, but my father gave me this cross when I was 11 and I've never taken it off since. It fell off once, but in that I never take it off. And when I think a bad thought, like if someone goes, oh, my mother had my father had cancer. And if I think, Jesus, I hope my dad doesn't get cancer, I automatically just go, and it's like a twitch now at this stage, but it just resets it. And I don't, so it's like a very strange coping mechanism, but it's just like, this is wood.
I don't think it's strange.
Jesus Christ was wood. His cross was wood.
Yeah. I don't think that's strange at all because you were brought up in a household where it was worst case scenario, and the thing about it is, does it work? Yes. Is it hurting you? No.
It's
so
amazing.
It's okay.
I'm very happy with it. Thank God. So
yeah. Well, Katie, once again, it's been great to have you with us, and thank you for joining us on DocX DX. And I'm thankful for you and your willingness to share your story. And once again, I'm proud of you for being who you are. So tell us again where our listeners can find you.
At Katie Boyle Comic, please come talk to me. And I have a podcast called The Shift, which is all about like anti-shame, sex. We do talk a little bit about mental health because sometimes a therapist will come on and be like, but usually relationship based. So
Gotcha. All right. And I'm Doc Brian. You can find me at thedocbrian.com, on Instagram, _doc_Brian. And there's a link at the bottom of my website for all of my social media. Feel free to follow us there. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast, Doc Talks, on all streaming platforms. And of course, Doc Talks and Doc Brian is a part of the Be Frank Network, and you can find all of our podcasts there at befranknetwork.com. And I look forward to having you join us again next time. Again, Katie, thank you for being with us. You have been excellent. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, so thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And everyone, have a great day. Thank you.
Bye.